Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to tell you a story that might sound shocking at first. A story that goes against everything we've been taught since childhood. A story that begins with a simple sentence that once made people laugh, judge, and even get angry. The sentence was this: never save money. Now before you close this video or assume this is bad advice, stay with me. Because this is not a story about being careless or irresponsible. This is a story about a life lesson that changed everything. A lesson about mindset, fear, growth, and the difference between surviving and truly living. This story begins with a man named Daniel. Daniel grew up in a very ordinary household. His parents were hardworking, honest people, but they lived their entire lives under one powerful belief: money is safety. From the time Daniel was a child, he heard the same phrases again and again. Save every penny. Don't take risks. Play it safe. A stable job is everything. Dreams are dangerous. Daniel absorbed these words like a sponge. By the time he was in his early 20s, he had already mastered the art of saving money. He skipped outings, avoided vacations, wore the same clothes for years, and always chose the cheapest option. While his friends talked about experiences, learning new skills, or starting small businesses, Daniel talked about interest rates and emergency funds. And to be fair, it worked. On paper, Daniel was doing great. He had savings. He had no debt. He had a stable job that paid just enough to keep him comfortable. His bank balance slowly increased every year, and everyone around him praised him for being responsible and mature. But there was something Daniel never talked about. Something he barely admitted to himself. Every night, when the world went quiet, he felt an emptiness. A strange heaviness in his chest. Life felt repetitive. Wake up, go to work, come home, eat, sleep, repeat. Days blended into weeks, weeks into years. Daniel told himself this was normal. This was adulthood. This was what responsible people did. He believed happiness was something you earned after decades of sacrifice. So he kept saving. One day, something unexpected happened. Daniel received a call from his childhood friend, Marcus. Marcus was the complete opposite of Daniel. He was curious, adventurous, and always learning something new. He had changed careers twice, traveled to different countries, and tried multiple business ideas, some of which failed badly. Marcus invited Daniel to meet for coffee. When they met, Daniel was shocked. Marcus looked alive. Not rich, not flashy, but alive. He spoke with energy, confidence, and excitement about life. During the conversation, Marcus casually mentioned that he was starting a new project and had invested most of his savings into it. Daniel couldn't hold himself back. He leaned forward and said, "That's risky. What if it fails? You should be saving money, not spending it like this." Marcus smiled. Not defensively. Not arrogantly. Just calmly. Then he said something that stayed with Daniel for years. He said, "I don't save money the way you think. I invest it into growth. Into skills. Into experiences. Into myself. Because money sitting still doesn't make you safe. It makes you comfortable enough to stay stuck." Daniel laughed it off at the time. But those words followed him home. They echoed in his mind during quiet moments. Comfortable enough to stay stuck. A few weeks later, Daniel's company announced restructuring. Nothing dramatic at first. Just rumors. Then meetings. Then emails. And one morning, Daniel found himself sitting in a small room, listening to HR explain that his position was being eliminated. In that moment, Daniel felt his chest tighten. Fear rushed in like a storm. But then something surprising happened. He felt a strange sense of calm. He had savings. months, even years of expenses covered. He walked out of the building telling himself, "This is why I saved. I'm safe." The first month felt like a vacation. Daniel rested, watched movies, and enjoyed not waking up to an alarm. The second month, the job applications began. The third month, the rejections arrived. And slowly, something became clear. The world had changed. The skills Daniel had relied on for years were no longer in high demand. Employers wanted adaptability, creativity, and experience with new tools. Daniel had none of that. He had saved money, but he hadn't invested in himself. As months passed, his savings began to shrink. And with every withdrawal, his fear grew. The money that once felt like safety now felt like a ticking clock. One night, unable to sleep, Daniel remembered Marcus's words. For the first time, he didn't dismiss them. He questioned his entire belief system. He realized something painful. He had spent years protecting money, but never once asked if that money was helping him grow. Daniel made a decision that scared him more than losing his job. He decided to stop saving money the old way. He decided to use what he had left to change his life. He enrolled in an online course to learn a new, in-demand skill. He bought books instead of buying cheap distractions. He attended workshops, met people outside his comfort zone, and even hired a mentor. Every dollar spent made his heart race with fear. But something else happened too. He felt alive. For the first time in years, Daniel woke up excited. His days were filled with learning, failing, improving, and trying again. His savings dropped, but his confidence grew. There were moments when he doubted himself deeply. Nights when he stared at his bank balance and wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. But each time, he reminded himself of one truth. Money can be earned again. Time, energy, and potential cannot. 6 months later, Daniel landed a freelance project using his new skills. It didn't pay much, but it paid something far more valuable. Proof. Proof that he could adapt. Proof that he was not as fragile as he once believed. One project turned into two. Two turned into consistent work. Within a year, Daniel was earning more than he ever had at his old job. But more importantly, he was in control. He wasn't dependent on a single employer. He wasn't terrified of change. That's when Daniel truly understood the lesson. The problem was never saving money. The problem was believing that saving money alone would save him. You see, money is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used wisely or poorly. When you save money out of fear, you shrink your life. You avoid risks. You avoid growth. You avoid discomfort. And discomfort is where transformation lives. Daniel realized that many people save money their entire lives, waiting for the right time to live. But that time never comes. Because fear keeps moving the finish line. First it's retirement. Then it's more security. Then it's health. Then it's too late. The lesson was never spend recklessly. The lesson was this: never save money without a purpose bigger than fear. Never let money sit idle while your potential collects dust. Never confuse a full bank account with a full life. Daniel started sharing his story with others. Some people listened. Some people argued. Some called him irresponsible. But a few understood. They began investing in learning, in building skills, in starting small projects, in experiences that expanded their minds. Those people didn't become rich overnight. But they became resilient. And resilience is worth more than any savings account. If you're watching this right now, feeling stuck, feeling afraid to move, feeling like you're doing everything right, but life still feels empty, ask yourself this one question. Is your money protecting your comfort or building your future? Because the world doesn't reward those who hide. It rewards those who adapt, those who learn, those who take calculated risks and grow from failure. Saving money won't save you from change. Skills will. Mindset will. Courage will. Daniel still saves money today. But not the way he used to. He saves to invest. He saves to grow. He saves to create options, not walls. And that is the life lesson that changed everything. If this story resonated with you, if it challenged the way you think about money and life, take a moment to reflect. You don't need to change everything overnight. But maybe, just maybe, it's time to stop playing only defense and start playing offense with your life. Because at the end of the day, money is replaceable. A wasted life is not.